Hello friends, this is Hedda. Today I am setting up my bullet journal spreads for October. I don't think I'm the only one who goes straight for black in October. First of all, I want to say thank you so much to RUSTICO.com for sponsoring this video. I'll talk more about them later in the video, but for now, let's get on with the spreads. As usual, I've made a printable journaling kit and sticker sheet for my friends over on Patreon, and this month I decided to draw some witches. It's the first time I draw people for these printables, but for October I just have to draw witches. There's no way around it. By now you have probably noticed that this video looks a bit different from normal, and that's because the foam board I usually use as my video background sat in the sun for too long and got so bent and warped that it's completely useless now, so I had to improvise a bit for this video. I think the black looks quite cool and fitting for this theme, but I was also battling auto exposure on the camera and a rapidly setting sun, so the light in this video is not ideal, but we can deal with that, right? The color scheme for October is a lot of a black, beige, and some pinks. My local library closed their printing service and I'm out of regular printer paper, so I was forced to print my printables on label paper. It's definitely more convenient because it's sticker paper, but the colors show up more muted than they should be, and somehow my printer just loves to make everything more pink. So a lot of the beige pieces look more pink than they should. I can live with that, but I also hope that your printers are better than mine. I wanted my cover page to be a simple collage on the right page with an encouraging quote on the left page. For the collage, I only used pieces from my journaling kit, and a great tip for cutting out pieces like the October header, for example, is to use an X-Acto knife to cut out the inner shapes so that when you glue it on the spread there aren't huge areas of white in the middle. On the left page I lettered "Be brave enough to be bad at something new," because I think it's so important that we all dip our toes in the water now and then and try something new. I totally snagged this composition from Upsy Doodles on Instagram, so shout out to Upsy. I didn't want to introduce any color on this page since I'm going for that muted look, but I tried adding some different textures and did the brush lettering in gray. As usual, I had to add some little doodles and sparkles on the spread for some final touches, and then I called it good. Moving on to the next spread, I had already tested out this weekday washi tape from Maisie Lane Co. to see if it would fit my calendar. That's why it's there. The black one fits my theme perfectly this month, but I did have to tweak it a little bit to fit the calendar that I drew up. But before I get into the tape, I ripped out a page from this black dotted notebook from Flying Tiger, since I wanted to create some cool contrasts in the spread. The dots are 5mm apart, which means I could line them up perfectly with the dots in my journal. The paper didn't line up perfectly in the corners and stuff with my journal, so I did have to glue it on in a kind of weird position and then cut off the excess, but the end result looks quite nice, I think. It's so great to have dotted black paper instead of just blank black paper, because then I don't have to measure anything when drawing up the calendar grid. For the calendar, I decided to try a brand new layout. I used the ruler that came with my Maisie Lane Co. journal to draw the calendar, and it's so convenient to have a transparent ruler on hand. I left a bit of space in between each week so that the calendar grid is 5 kind of floating rows. I think it looks really cool and different. I used a white jelly roll to draw the calendar on the black paper. I usually only include the actual days of the month in my calendar grid, but for this particular design I thought it would actually look nicer if I just included the whole week for the first and last week of the month, since the weekday washi tape will be on top and there wouldn't really be any decoration where the September and November days are anyway. And this is something that I consider every month, and I honestly like this solution very much. Now for the tape, the distance between the weekdays isn't perfect for my particular calendar setup, but I fixed this very easily by placing the tape down where I wanted it to be and then cutting it lightly with my X-Acto knife to remove pieces of the tape. Since there's no pattern or anything on the tape, you can't even tell unless you look very closely. So I did this 2 places on the tape as well as on each side to make a clean edge, and the rest of the days lined up nicely. I didn't have to do any other header than the actual October header on this spread, and that was kind of nice. It looks so sleek. For the October header, I decided to bring out my Molotov liquid chrome paint marker, which I haven't used since October last year. I wasn't sure if I should go with silver, gold, or white, but I ended up with silver mostly because I feel guilty for not using this very expensive pen more. Looking at it now, I could have definitely used white too, but at least the silver looks pretty cool when the light hits it. I just went for simple block letters for the title, nothing fancy, and after adding the dates to the grid and some mandatory sparkles, I was done. On the next spread, I knew I wanted a completely black page. This spread will work as my thesis to-do list and also a random page for notes because I really liked having that for September. So I glued in a whole black page from the same black dotted notebook, cutting off the excess and using a thin strip of black washi tape along the top to make it so the black covers the entire page because there was a little white strip and it was very annoying. Then I used some of my printables to decorate it, and I went with the simplest solution possible, 1 header and 1 witch. After all, I need a lot of room to write notes, so the less decoration the better. On the left page, I drew up a similar grid like the one I made for September, but I only had room for 4 weeks instead of 5, so that's a major design flaw to this page. Also, I think my brain stopped working completely at this point. I suppose I could have made each row shorter, but I also didn't want to compromise on space, so it is what it is. I spent an eternity coloring in the headers with an almost empty Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen, and then wrote each date with my white jelly roll. Tip on the jelly roll, the 05 is really bad, get the 08 or 10 instead, they have way better ink flow. I made a simple header for both pages using my Tombow Fudenosuke again, and then lastly I decorated with some washi tape and a sticker from my journaling kit and called it good. I really like combining my printables with other washi tape and stickers that I buy because I think it's so cool to just mix my style with other people's style, if that makes sense. The last spread I'm making is the first weekly spread for October. It's going to be fairly simple with running dailies. I put together a collage of pictures from Unsplash and made a small grid in the bottom left corner for events. I'll be taking 1 day at a time in the spread, which means I'll only put in the Monday header for now, and then Monday nights I'll set up for Tuesday and so on. And this, at least in my experience, is a much more mindful way to journal, and it may seem like more work, but honestly it makes me a lot more likely to think through my tasks and activities every day, and I'm also forced to open up my journal every night, which I have to admit I don't always do, but I should, so this is my way of making sure I do that. Also, if you're interested in seeing last year's witch theme, which was a lot more, I guess, well thought through, then, check out that video because that's still up, and I really liked my witch theme from last year, and I would love for you to watch it if you haven't already. Before we get into the final flip through, let me tell you a bit about the sponsor of this video, RUSTICO.com. RUSTICO is a company based in Utah in the US, and they make super pretty notebooks and journals and other leather goods. I'm using their idea notebook and their expedition notebooks, and I love them so much. We're actually doing a joint giveaway in October, so make sure that you follow me on Instagram to be notified of that, and feel free to follow Rustico as well. Go to rustico.com to check out their notebooks. I think that their selection looks really good in the fall, and it is time to look for a new journal for the next year. And here it is, the final flip through. I really enjoyed setting up these spreads for October, and I hope that you enjoyed following along. Make sure to click the subscribe button if you want to see more from me. If all of you share my video with one friend or family member this month, that would help me out so much. Thank you so much for watching my video and for supporting my art. I hope that you're all having a lovely day, and I'll see you next time.